Well, good morning, everyone. Thomas Montgomery. Today is Monday, December 2nd, 2024. We get together most weekday mornings at 8 o'clock Central to talk about strategies, tips, techniques, share success stories, and support each of you. Our conversation today is shown with the shared screen. We're going to do an overview of the Fundable Shelf Corps, and we're going to review both of our dual mandates. So, our nonprofit, our 501c3 nonprofit, has applied for and received a number of grants, and they're built around this dual mandate approach. The first of which is we want to improve financial literacy and increase access to capital. And that's primarily focused on the small business marketplace. So we're spending not so much time and attention on individual personal financial literacy, not how to go get personal loans, but about what entrepreneurs should know, need to know, often don't know to be able to access capital. And then the second of the dual mandates is to collaborate with leaders like yourselves in communities nationally to be able to fulfill number one. Now, our approach to number two is changing significantly as of today, and that's where the Brain Trust got together in Vegas at the Wynn, and we'll be talking about that in a moment. We're going to talk about both. So, if you're here because you'd like to learn about these fundable shelf corps and see if they might help you get the money you need to start to grow a business, you're in the right spot. Conversely, if you're someone that's looking at, frankly, getting paid to help others, you're also in the right spot. So, mandate number one is what? Improving financial literacy. It's essentially working with small business owners. So, with that, let's review the Shelf Corp value proposition. The Fundable Shelf Corp program provides an affordable and effective solution for entrepreneurs who are looking for a turnkey business ready to apply for business loans within days of enrollment. So, just like we all learned back in business school, with most business decisions, we can either buy or build. So, Elon Musk, when he's building his cyber trucks in Austin, Texas, he had to make a decision. Is he going to build? Is he going to manufacture the steering wheels? Or is he going to buy those from a vendor? Well, from a small business funding perspective, entrepreneurs need to make a decision. Do they want to build and create a fundable business? And that's fine. And frankly, we can help them do that. Or do they want to buy? Do they just want to acquire a shelf corp that's already ready for funding? And we find that most people really like the fast, easy, and free choice, which is the shelf corp. So, as it states here, this comparison sheet is a really good reference piece, I think, in understanding what we do. If you are in group number two, in other words, you're helping us educate others, you should have a copy of this comparison sheet, and then it's edited at the bottom, whereby you would have your own contact information, your own call to action. But let's go through this briefly because it does help us understand what this is all about. So with that being said, let's scroll this over a little bit so our menu or our agenda is not hidden. So the question is, do you need capital to start or grow a business? What we know, if the answer is yes, we need to focus on having a fundable business. There's not a bank or a lender in the world that cares how badly someone wants or needs money. That's not part of the underwriting. The underwriting is based upon qualifications. Most small business owners don't even know what it takes to be qualified. Therefore, of course, they don't have the qualifications. So what we do is we can educate them about what it takes to have a fundable business, and we can also provide access to capital by having a ready-to-go to funding business model, the Shelf Corp. So we can help through a legal and ethical approach called the Fundable Shelf Corporation. I know some people say, well, I already have a business. Well, that's fine. If your business is fundable, you're right. We should be using it. But just because you have a business doesn't mean that it's fundable. A lot of people have businesses that have some elements of fundability, but not all that's needed. So we clarify there are two rules you need to know if you're looking for business funding. Number one, as we stated before, you have to have a fundable business. And we're going to talk about some of those elements, what's required by most lenders as we go through the comparison. And then secondly, the second rule is using a fundable shelf corp is absolutely the fastest and easiest way to have a fundable business. And because of the grant, it's actually free. So let's go through the comparison sheet briefly. So as you're comparing, if you're looking for funding, or conversely, if you're talking to someone that's looking for funding, we need to compare their options because we know we're not the only game in town. So with the Fundable Shelf Corporation, we've put check marks by where it's applicable, as well as the cost. As people are looking at other options, we don't know necessarily what they're looking at, but this allows for it to be interactive for them to plug in the other options they're looking for. So first and foremost, our approach guarantees funding, an FTC compliant written contract. We guarantee that anyone that follows our program, they will get funding. How much? We need to build the package to match what the client's looking for. We'll guarantee a minimum of 100,000, but we certainly can pursue more. And we have access to over a thousand different small business lenders that are ready to work with our clients. So we'll go through a matching process based upon the individual client's wants and needs. So that's a big deal, right? Because many things in life are not guaranteed. Frankly, most things in entrepreneurialism is not guaranteed. The likelihood that a small business will fail is very high, especially if they don't have adequate capital. So here we've removed the risk with the Fundable Shelf Corp. If the client or prospective client's looking at other options, I don't know what those are, but if they also provide guaranteed results, then we would check the box. If not, we would leave it blank. Now, let's get into a little bit more of what it takes to have a fundable business, because the truth is, it doesn't matter what you think, and it doesn't matter what I think. It matters what the bank thinks, right? So we need to have an adult discussion today about what lenders are looking for. Now, a lot of us have misinformation, sometimes wrong information, so sometimes we think things that are not accurate. I'm going to shoot you straight of what it takes to have a fundable business. If you disagree, if you have conflicting views, feel free to type it into the Q&A and we can banter about it. But all of us used to work for the SBA, and we're not limited to just SBA loans through this process, but we know what it takes. So let's go through it. We're going to need a business plan, and the business plan, of course, needs to state who we are and what we do, how much money we want, which we call the use of funds. I can't tell you how often we work with clients that come to us and they frankly don't even know what they want money for. They want some money. Well, that's fine as a starting point, but that's not an effective strategy to get approval. We need to be able to delineate in the appropriate format what's our use of funds, what do we want money for, and then we also need financials. There's two types of business financials, and you may know this, so forgive me if I'm insulting you, but there's historical financials. In other words, what has happened in the past up to today. And then there's forecasting going forward. We help clients with both of those. And how much does that cost? That's free. So that's included here as they're comparing other options, since we know this is needed. Now, you might say, oh, well, I've got a business plan and financials already. Well, that's great. That's wonderful. And if that can allow us to fast track it, that's even better. But is that business plan and are those financials lender compliant? Are they ready to be submitted to the bank? Most often they're not. So even if you have this, we can at least help you improve them so we get approved. Free credit improvement. So I know that we're focused on business funding, not personal funding, but some lenders, not all, look at personal credit. And we know that oftentimes entrepreneurs can have a rocky road that can impact their personal credit. So since and it's the common theme, right? So we know a business plan's needed. We know most small business owners don't have it, so we include it. Same with financials, same with improving their credit. So we work with attorneys and paralegals. It's technically not credit repair, but it does repair credit. What we're going to do is remove negative and add positive trade lines. So is that included? Yes. Is it free? Yes. If you're comparing other options, mark as applicable. Free commercial address. Now, this is interesting. We were working over the past week with our realtor as we're getting ready to buy a new office building that's going to be our flagship Shelf Corp store. And we'll talk about that more on Mandate 2. But we were out looking at properties over the past week. We have a couple that we've narrowed it down to. And so that's where we're going to start having our trainings, live trainings at. But separate from that, a business that's looking for funding does not have to own a building. They could have a lease, but they certainly need to have a credible address with written documentation. It should not be a shared office, shouldn't be a post office box or residential address, of course. And then, of course, we need a business entity that's in good standing. So those are kind of obvious statements, but we know that most small business owners especially don't have the first of the two. So we provide both of these for how much? Free. So that's why it's included. And then if you or your client, your prospective client's looking at other options, then determine if that's included as well for free. People want fast, simple, and free. They want immediate results. And so we're able to consistently generate results for clients. So in addition to some of these aspects that take often about a week to get transferred over to them, here's where we can generate immediate value, getting 100,000 transfer. Now understand, that's not a loan. It's not money that has to be paid back. It's the transference of assets in the form of accounts receivables, so we can add those to the client's balance sheet, which is an example of a financial statement, so they have collateral. And then if the client wants us to, then we can liquidate those receivables and turn that into cash. That's included for free. And then as you're looking at other options, have to figure out if it's included or not. When it comes to business funding, many of you remember back from middle school or high school, whenever and wherever you learned it, there's the three C's: credit, collateral, and capacity. So that's typically what it takes to get a normal business loan. Well, that's what we've built in. So we've talked about how we provide collateral. We've talked about how we address credit. This is where we address capacity. Capacity is often referred to as cash flow. So again, it's optional. All of this is optional. If the clients don't want it, they can opt out of it. It's like going to a buffet. If you don't want the cherry cheesecake, you don't have to pick up the cherry cheesecake, but it's included. So here, what we're doing is providing daily business deposits into the business's account, included, or at least I should say available, just like everything else is available. And so that meets the third of the three C's. And then, of course, there's always the cost issue. Now, with the cost, what do we know? We know that we received a grant, and that is referenced here, that while there is a cost to buy a Shelf Corp, it is reimbursed by the grant. So in the end, it's free, but people typically say, well, what's the out-of-pocket cost? What's it going to cost for me to do this? The out-of-pocket cost is $1,000. Now, as far as what it would cost with other programs, other options, I don't know. So with that, that gives you a quick understanding of our deliverable of how we're out improving financial literacy and increasing access to capital. So that's the first mandate. Let's go ahead and go to the second mandate, which is to work with community leaders like yourselves. And we're approaching this much different as of today. I know it's not December 1st, but we didn't have a session yesterday. So as of December, we're changing how we work with distribution partners. So let's get to mandate number 2. We're going to call those Shelf Corp stores. So just like we were out talking to not realtors. We have one realtor, his name's Lee. But as we were working with Lee at looking at different real estate properties to buy, we're going to have we're going to buy a physical store that's going to be the flagship. So each of you going forward that would like to have a Shelf Corp store, a physical brick and mortar presence in your community, then we can assist you in that. So let's go through the highlights. First of all, we know if you're going to make the investment to buy or lease a physical office, which we'll provide the funding for, which we'll get to in a moment, that you don't want to have a competitor across the street from you. So we're going to have only one Shelf Corp store per county. And I know some states don't have counties, like Louisiana has parishes and so forth, but you get the gist. We're going to have just one distribution partner per county. So we're obviously looking for distribution partners who are really wanting to get involved. Our I don't want to say failure, but our biggest limiting factor over this past year, over 2024, has not been the value of the programming. The programming is excellent. The problem has been we've allowed dabblers to suck up so much time. And dabblers are people that have interest in this. They're good people, but they just kind of dabble with this and they're out selling Avon and insurance and whatever else. And so we need committed individuals. It doesn't have to be full time, but the stores, these physical stores, just like we're going to have a flagship store, if you're going to own a store in your community, it needs to be open full time. Now, you could have staff that operate it. It doesn't have to be your full time focus, but there will be geographic exclusivity. It's certainly a turnkey business model. And just so you know, I'm not leading up to a cost. There's no cost to have a Shelf Corp store, so I'm not getting ready to pitch you on it. But it's a turnkey model, right? Because we're doing this. We know how well this works when it's done right. And so we're looking for committed individuals that want to have brick and mortar Shelf Corp stores in their community, and we can be up and running right away. We've got great income projections we can share with you so you can review those. Next. Expanded support. So we're going to continue to do these daily trainings, daily Zoom trainings, and that's fine, and then one-on-one support. But we're going to begin having our in-person trainings, which will be here at our new flagship store. So adding in-person training will be an important element of expanded support. Another very significant difference with the Shelf Corp stores is if you're running a Shelf Corp store, you handle all client communication. We're quiet in the background doing all the work. You are the only ones talking to the client. Because what we found sometimes is clients, when they're talking to multiple people, they can get confused and frustrated and dissatisfied. No more of that. So if you're running a Shelf Corp store, it's your client under your contract, you're picking the pricing, and they're paying you, they're not paying us. And with that, you control all client communication. Now, we'll train you on the processes when you come into our in-person training, but we'll do all the work. You're just going to handle the client communication. And that's important so that way you can ramp up much more significantly than if you had to staff up to do all the work. We'll take care of the leads, so that won't be an issue. Startup allowance. Now, we're looking at commercial office buildings, grade A office space. And so the truth is $100,000 is not enough to go out and buy a grade A commercial office space. So we'll work with you. Do you want to buy an office building? Do you want to lease? One of the buildings we're looking at has tenants. So it's great. It's income producing from day one. So for instance, you could have your Shelf Corp store in your building. There's other tenants in the building that's paying rent to you. But regardless, it's designed to provide a minimum of $100,000 startup allowance. And so you can use that for your space, for payroll for yourself, for other people, for marketing, so forth. And again, this is not a franchise. We're not looking at selling you something. This is an opportunity to identify which of you want to be in a leadership role that's going to put significant focus. Because again, you all are great. And we'll continue to have our affiliate program, where the affiliate program, you don't have to pay anything. You get a free landing page. You just refer in. So the affiliate program will continue. But that doesn't require really any training. All you need to know is refer to your landing page and then you get paid. Here, this is a much bigger role. So it's not about us making money off of you, but it's about finding those of you that really want to be involved and have a presence in your community. Because when you have a physical presence, it changes, right? So now you're a member of the Chamber of Commerce. Now you're part of the community. You're not just some man or woman working from home, wearing nice clothes, driving a nice car. You're actually part of the business community. That's our vision. All right, so timeline. Let's go through the timeline. So first of all, you'll need to let us know if you want to have a Shelf Corp store. And again, as I mentioned, we're going to have one per county. So we're not selling these. So it's not like you have to buy a franchise or buy a territory, but we need to know who is going to be in what area. And frankly, it's a lofty goal. If you look at how many different counties are in the United States, there's a lot. There's thousands and thousands. That's our goal. That may sound like a lot to manage, but actually that's going to be easier for us because right now we're managing thousands and thousands of new clients every month. Going forward, all clients will be going through a Shelf Corp store. So the Shelf Corp store owners and their staff will be interfacing with the clients. All we need to do is to support you and do the work. So step one in the timeline is reserve your county. Second, we need to go find that space. So this is where it gets kind of particular. As far as how big or how small, that's up to you. You're managing the P&L of your Shelf Corp store. So this one building that we looked at just yesterday, we actually went for the second time and looked at it yesterday. It has tenants. So the square footage of the building becomes kind of irrelevant because we won't be using all of the building. It has tenants. But you need to have at least, I think, room for two desks and ideally a small conference room so you can educate and teach. But that's really up to you. You manage the P&L. We'll provide the financing to either rent it or buy it. If we're going to do a buy, we may have to do some rehab, some improvements. You want new carpet, you want new paint, you want new furniture. And again, all that can be facilitated. So that's the second step in the timeline. The third is once we have that, then come in and you'll come into our new flagship Shelf Corp store where you'll be trained. And then you'll be able to be open for business right afterwards. As far as support, I encourage you to reach out to Madison if you have specific questions, comments. If you need a copy of this flyer that's editable so you can put your information on it, you're going to call Madison. If you need to reserve your county, you're going to call Madison. You can email her as well. If you want to be an affiliate, you say, well, this all sounds great. I want to be part of this, but I don't want the responsibility and the duties of running a store. That's fine. You can be an affiliate. You can go to 509pacific.org. You can sign up as an affiliate. It's free, simple, fast, and you can have a landing page and you make a simple $1,000 per deal. All right, so with that being said, let me try to stretch this out a bit. Who has questions, comments, concerns, either on Mandate 1, which is the client proposition, or Mandate 2, which I guess wasn't clearly stated, so let me edit that. Mandate 2. Who has questions, comments, concerns that I can help you with? All right. Gary asked about on number 2. So Gary, which count? First of all, we need to see if the county that you want, Gary, is available. He wants Miami-Dade County. I think that's open, but we'll make sure, Gary. So first, we need to make sure the county's open. And then secondly, we need to go find space. And so that's your responsibility. Obviously, most likely what you'd want to do is get a realtor and have the realtor help show you property. Sometimes the realtor can find property. Sometimes you might see the property and you point the realtor towards it. Then you go through the normal process, right? You see it, you decide if you're interested, you get the inspection, you get the appraisal. We can facilitate the financing. So I think that's what Gary's point maybe is. So yes, it's great. We can provide the financing for your office. Gary's also asking about the office. So the Shelf Corp store needs to be its own office. Now, you might have next to it your accounting firm or your law firm or your bookkeeping firm or your insurance agency, but we would really prefer that the Shelf Corp store be specific for this purpose. Now, you might have other affiliated businesses nearby, but our preference is that your Shelf Corp store is standalone. Otherwise, it could be confusing, right? So if we kind of want to be the McDonald's of financial literacy, where it's pretty much the same. You could go to a McDonald's anywhere in the country or anywhere in the world, theoretically, and get a Big Mac. So what we wouldn't want is someone to stroll into your office, Gary, and you're selling adult toys in the back room, right? It's not consistent with our message. All right, so Greg asked, do you have to do this exclusively? No, and you're right. There are some business opportunities like Domino's Pizza. We didn't have a Domino's Pizza in our small town, so I actually looked at buying that franchise. But their franchise agreement requires you to divest yourself of any other business interest and just own one or more Domino's franchises. So that's not this model. This is not locking you down, but we certainly are wanting to work with individuals that want to be involved in their community, that want to earn six figures or more a month. Because again, I've got the revenue projections I can share with you. It's the real deal. It's helping clients with this. All right, so questions on the in-person training. So we've been doing the trainings off-site currently because we have not closed on the new property. And our current space does not have a training facility in it. The property I think we're going to get has an amazing, what I'll call a flex room. It was a home health or a hospice headquarters before, has a very large room. I'm going to approximate 30 by 40, maybe even bigger, 30 by 50, that once it's built out will be a state-of-the-art training facility. So in the meantime, we'll do trainings off-site. We need to close on the real estate, and then we need to do the construction of that training room. But we're typically doing trainings every Saturday, I'm sorry, and we have been doing those. So Mr. Charles and Mr. Keller's asking. So yeah, we've been doing the trainings, just so you know, on Saturdays. So that'll continue, and then we'll move into our new facility here soon. Sandy asked about leads. So that's right. So leads won't be a problem for a couple reasons. Number one, you're going to actually be plugged into your community. And I think that's a real difference. Many of you are good at what you do. Some of you are great at what you do, but you're not really plugged into the business community. The bankers in your town, do they know who you are and what you do? Well, that's one of the things I learned about working at the SBA. Every business banker in your county, they need to know you by name, and they need to have your cell phone number. And when they have someone that's declined for a business loan, they're calling you. They're doing warm handoffs. And that doesn't happen in every case, of course. But this is about being ingrained in the community. So that's where it's so different. So if that's too much, hey, that's okay. Become an affiliate. You can become an affiliate for free and easy, get a landing page, get paid, and you don't have to worry about all this. But for our leadership team, for our our store owners, our Shelf Corp store owners, this is an amazing opportunity. I guess you'd call it a biz op, but we're not selling it to you, right? So I'm not trying to sell you a franchise or a territory. We're just wanting to do a better job of identifying who's really in this, who's really focused. Because I have some of you that say you're focused, but you don't produce anything. And so then that absorbs our time and energy and training where we should really be focused on the people that are really involved, those that are really producing. All right, so Claude asked about the 100,000 allowance. So what, as it states here, so we would expect you to buy a Shelf Corp if you want to run a Shelf Corp store. So that way, A, we're walking the walk, and B, that's going to provide the funding for your store. So Claude kind of connected the dots. Yeah, and I didn't mean to hide that. So that's right. So you would need to be a Shelf Corp client, and then we could essentially implement the Shelf Corp store if that's what you would like. Craig asked about proof of funds. I think it can vary, but my experience has been for commercial properties. Like we looked at all of these properties after Thanksgiving, after we came back from the Vegas event with many of you, and I don't know that any of the sellers ask our realtor representing us, the buyers, for any proof of funds. And we were able to go in and look at every property. So I don't think that'll be a problem. Mr. Tufo says there's 3,244 counties. Oh, so just round off, say 3,000 counties. So that's exactly right, Mr. Tufo. That's our goal, is to have 3,000 Shelf Corp stores. If you remember, we did a soft launch of this. We started talking about this back in October. And the analogy we made was Edward Jones. Edward Jones has lots of offices around the country to provide a different scope of services, different set of services. But they're there in the community. They're visible, they're known. And that's where we're at. So if you would like to own a Shelf Corp store, again, I'm not trying to sell you anything, so it's not me pitching you. But if you want to be in that type of leadership role in your community, then here's the steps and the timeline. The first thing is to let Madison know. And as I disclosed, you do need to have a Shelf Corp. We need to walk the walk, right? So you wouldn't go out and sell Ferraris if you don't own a Ferrari, I guess. So we want you to be a success, and then we'll be able to get the funding that you need for your Shelf Corp store. You'll own 100% of it. We won't be minority owners. It's not a franchise. We don't have any control over what you do. We just need to make sure that we have an aligned set of expectations. All right, with that being said, we'll be back tomorrow morning. If you have any questions, recommend you call Madison. She's most available. She's available at our 509 Pacific office. It's a 501c3, and then we'll be getting our new office and moving into it, hopefully sometime here soon. I'll see you all tomorrow morning. Let us know if you have anything that we can help you with. Have a good day. Bye.